Hey YouTube, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. A new short Orlandoo video. So no video about some new products, but of two products I do already have for quite a time, for more than 1 year, but didn't finish them so far. In this video I will show you the not new, but in my opinion quite awesome Orlandoo D4L radio with light controller, light system and sound system, and I will show it to you in my Toyota Tacoma. Quite a lot of lights in such a tiny car. The reason why I do this video is that I do not read manuals. The D4L set is quite a bang for the buck. I did already buy it somewhere in last year for only about $50, and you do get a lot. You do really get a lot. You get the radio, you get the receiver, ESC, light system and sound system unit. You get a ton of LEDs with it, and you get a small speaker and an on-off switch. And I didn't use it. Stored it and thought, okay, one day I will try it. It will for sure not be that good. And I did also not finish my Toyota Tacoma. I did already paint it and build the chassis somewhere in last year. But finally now, after playing around quite a bit and a lot of time with those huge 1/18 and 1/24 trucks, I decided to finish my Tacoma and to install the electronics and lights. And I could not find, you get the light distribution board with the Orlandoo radio. I couldn't find how and where to connect the LEDs in the internet. I searched everywhere, didn't find anything. So I thought, okay, I'll test it. I wasn't sure if I will use the distribution board anyway, but I tested the points where to connect the LEDs. And I also checked the single wires coming out of the receiver unit, which LED or which contact does control what LED. And finally, I wrote this up. You can see it here. I made those graphs where I labeled the contacts, which LED to connect where, and if you don't want to use the light distribution board, which pins to use for what or which LED. The light distribution system does have a common plus, and the black GNU minus does control the LEDs. So you can see this here now. Finally, I used the light distribution board, and then I thought I will make this video and show where to connect the LEDs, but I also wanted to explain the radio, what does have quite a lot of functions, and I knew that the radio does have a model memory for 10 models, and I did not find how to do this. Without reading the manual, I finally found out how to do everything, including all the light functions, but not how to get into the model memory, and therefore I used and read the manual. And what do we find here in the manual? Check this out. Simple graph where to connect the LEDs. So stupid me did make my graphs in vain. However, this system is that awesome that I think it's worth to do another video, mainly because most people, or most videos I saw, people didn't really put the LEDs in their Orlandoos. That's the most difficult part in my opinion. So first things first, let's switch it off and switch the radio off, and I will show you how to get into the model memory. Therefore you have to press those two buttons and then switch it on, and then you see on the right side here on the top model, and you can go to model 0 to 9 0. So that's it, and then you have to switch it off again and switch it on again, and then you get into the normal menu. Here you can see the voltage of the batteries, and to get into the model you have to press those two buttons simultaneously, and if you don't do this, that's trim, steering trim, fast steering trim, and fast throttle trim. You don't have to go into the menu to do this, and you see it's also lit up now. But if you go in the menu, press those two buttons, and you again see I have dual rate now, dual rate for steering, and then steering trim again. That's the same as if you are simply pressing that way. I'm already back. So dual rate steering, steering trim, throttle trim, steering reverse, throttle reverse, endpoint adjustment, so you can adjust endpoints left and right or up and down independently. Difference to dual rate, therefore you see here the right and left. You can change this by turning the wheel. And throttle endpoint adjustment and aux, that's for the sound system. You have two different sounds you can choose from. So that's quite nice. And after some seconds you will be back to the main screen. Furthermore, you do have here a knob that's for the sound system. You can adjust the volume and switch off the sound system, and here you have a simple push button which controls the lights. And all in all, that's quite a nice system, and I was totally positively surprised. I do have volume on maximum now, and if I go to start, you can't start immediately. You see, first the motor has to start, and then you can go forward and reverse. And it does have a brake function. You see, I can't go directly from forward to reverse. I have to stop. And you can change the sounds. Let's do this. Oh. Aux 1, I go to aux 2 now, and now we have the second sound. And what's quite a nice function, if you switch off the sound, you will be in crawler mode. So check this out. Now I do have sound on. I can't start immediately, and I can't go directly from forward to reverse. Switched on the lights now. It will stop, and if I switch off the sound, what's quite annoying anyway, check this out now. Now I'm in crawler mode, so no sound, direct forward reverse, and with sound. You can't start immediately, first have to start the engine. And we have the, after sometimes, quite annoying sound again. And what again do we have? Of course we do have the light controller. And the light controller is really quite nice. So now I have switched off the lights, and you see there are no turning lights. Super nice. I hate if turning lights are always on when driving, but as soon as you switch on the lights, what you do by pushing this button once, you will have turning lights. You see, I connected to the main beams those 4 small SMD LEDs and the main beams, the normal main beams. So I do have now 6 front lights and 2 turning lights in front, and on the rear side you do have turning lights again. We do have rear lights, what are also brake lights, you can see. And what you can see here now, I hope you can see it on video, also do have reverse lights. Unfortunately, I painted the lenses totally in red. It wasn't indicated in the manual, in the building manual of the Orlandoo, but well, can live with it. White reverse lights. If you're going forward, the rear light is weak, and if you go brake, you have brake lights again. And you do have an additional function, an aux channel, what you normally would use for a light bar, what would be nice, but I don't have a light bar in this system or in this truck. And you can switch on and off this aux channel by pressing the button for a long time. So you see, I put two yellow, I don't know why, LEDs into the bumper, kind of fog lights, and they are on now. They are totally independent from the main beams. So two lights on off now, and I can control the main beams independently. So one short click is main beams on, second short click is main beams off, all lights off including turning lights. Long press, auxiliary light, so my lights in the bumpers or the light bar off. Two clicks, hazard lights, that's quite nice. Hazard lights in front and rear. Two clicks of 3 clicks. That's what you saw in the beginning. All lights in a kind of blinking mode. Looks quite nice for a shelf queen. So all LEDs will be lit up and lit down and blink. And this is stored in the radio and in the truck. So if you switch off radio and truck, as I did now, and switch it on again, it will start with the light control function you had adjusted when switching off the truck. So again, everything off, no turning light function, one click, all beams but auxiliary lights on, including turning wheel functions. Two short clicks, hazard lights, those are independent from the main light functions. So I have hazard lights on now, can click once, so all other lights are off now, but hazard lights are still on. Two clicks, hazard lights off, one long click, light bar or auxiliary lights on, independent from other functions. So I click two short clicks now, auxiliary lights and hazard lights, super nice. And one click, totally independent, main beams, one click, main beams off, two clicks, hazard lights off, long click, auxiliary light off, and 3 clicks, this blinking function. So that's really awesome. I really like it. Let's switch it off again and let's take a look inside now. What's quite nice with the Toyota Tacoma, it's not the easiest build because of its independent front suspension, quite flimsy. You can take the body or the front part of the body off easily, and here you can take a look inside. I did make a special plug for the 4 LEDs under the nice front grille to be able to remove this, and simply a black piece of plastic. I don't like if you see the lights of the electronics if you're driving the car. So what can you see here inside? You see that's the small loudspeaker I got with my set. That's smaller than the old one I had in the previous sets I have in my Ford and I guess in one of the Jeeps. So it's quite a tiny speaker with sticky tape on the front. I don't know if you should stick it to the bottom plate. I tried. Sound transmission was even worse, but still with a tiny speaker it's still not super loud. However, I don't like the sound system anyway. It's quite nice to show, but if you drive, switch it off, in my opinion. And here's the receiver, ESC, light controller, sound controller unit, and here's the distribution port. And you see there are quite a lot of wires. Of course, because how many lights do we have here? We do have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 13, 16 LEDs connected in parallel to the light distribution board. As already mentioned, you don't have to use it. You could also simply use the plugs from the receiver ESC unit, make a common plus and control each of the LED functions by the 6 more wires you saw in the graph, and you have to connect all the LEDs in parallel. I did connect those 4 front SMD LEDs and the 4mm round LEDs in parallel to the front LED port, and it works flawlessly. So you can't connect LEDs with different colors in parallel, but all those are white. I wasn't sure if it will work, but it seems to work perfectly. So if I don't connect the 4 SMD LEDs of the front grille, the 4mm round LEDs won't be brighter. So intensity seems to be the same. And that's a bit of a mess. You see all those wires and wiring. Building an Orlandoo is never a problem. Building an Orlandoo chassis, main part of the work is always painting body and this stuff, and of course lighting it up. So mainly the round LEDs are no problem also. They are easy to install, but all those tiny SMD LEDs, that's quite a bit of work, and wiring is not that easy, I would say. So, but that's what I like. What I did not understand and was not shown in the manual of the Tacoma, there was no wiring diagram, and I don't know how they wanted you to get the wires of the 6 LEDs, of the 6 rear LEDs, to the main part, to the interior, because it will not work if you clip on the body. There's no room to get the wires inside, and what I did do, I made a small notch on the body plate on each side here. What I recommend, if you want to light up your Tacoma, make the wires of the rear part long enough. I thought I would have cut them okay, long enough, but finally they were quite short, and that's why I mounted the light distribution port to this position and not farther in front, because all the wires of the 6 rear LEDs were too short to place the light distribution port more in front. What else to say? Not a lot more to say. The radio and the car do also have low voltage alarm functions, so the radio will show this alarm by if battery voltage is only 4.8 volt. And the truck should have an alarm function too, and I will connect it to my lab power supply now, and then I will show the low voltage alarm function. So let's check this now. I connected the car to my power supply where I can adjust voltage now, and I will lower the voltage. Unfortunately, to have this low voltage alarm, you will have to switch on the sound system. So with 0 it won't work. Manual says 6.6 volts, so let's go to 6.6 and let's wait a little bit. No beep. 6.4. Now it starts. However, quite nice low voltage alarm, so you don't have to check the battery voltage all the time. So finally, this radio system from Orlandoo was a big positive surprise for me. I paid only around 50 euros for it, and you get really a lot. But of course, it's not perfect. So what's the downside? The ESC is not the best. It's only 1.8 amps, what's not a problem for an Orlandoo. But okay, I want to show it to you without sound now. You see, you have this super annoying noise before the truck starts, and low voltage control. It's not such a big problem because of the gear motor in the Orlandoos. It seems to be even better than in the old Orlandoo ESCs, which I also tested in my best ESC for microcrawler video, in my long video, and the Orlandoo ESC does have really bad low speed control. This seems to be quite okay, but we can compare it of course with something better, and in a future video I will compare this Tacoma with the Orlandoo system to the Defender with the FlySky Noble radio and the AS12.6 Modellbauregler DE ESC and the Laneboys RC Light controller. But I can already tell you that's absolutely value for the money. That's quite a bang for the buck for 50 euros, or that's about 60 US dollars. Sometimes you will even get it cheaper, but there are also further downsides. You have a model memory of 10 models, but if you want to buy only the receiver ESC unit, it's super expensive, and then you have to buy the distribution board and the LEDs. The LEDs of the Orlandoos, for the round LEDs, they always use those 4mm LEDs. I don't understand this, because I do have hundreds of 3 and 5mm LEDs, but 4mm LEDs I searched are super difficult to get and super expensive. So if I don't use the LEDs from an Orlandoo light system, as in most of my Orlandoos, then I use 3mm LEDs with shrink tube, but I don't know why Orlandoo does have to use those super strange 4mm round LEDs. I searched a lot of shops and they are super difficult to get. So if you want to buy only the electronics for a second Orlandoo without radio, you will probably pay more than if you would buy a second Orlandoo D4L system. So that's it for this video, I guess. Maybe the Tacoma, it's a large Orlandoo. Check it compared to the Ford F-150, so it's significantly larger. And it does also have not only a longer wheelbase, but it's also wider. So it's 1:32, I guess the Ford was 1:35, I have to check it again. Not a lot more to say. It's not the easiest of all the Orlandoo builds because of the independent front suspension. That's quite flimsy. It works, but I wouldn't recommend it as your first Orlandoo. We will check its driving performance compared to the Defender with the AS12.6 ESC in a future video. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope to see you in the next video. I'll be back.